Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Annette.
All right, welcome to our International Women's Day Dare to Challenge session by Women in Safety Excellence. Very excited to have you all on board. Very, very excited. And we know International Women's Day was on Monday, but we celebrate not only the whole day, the whole week, but actually the whole year. And today we have an amazing lineup of speakers, starting with our keynote speaker, Dr. Patricia, the chairman of the Protective Security Industry Association, Mr. Mutava, Rosemary, who is the founder and CEO of Beyond Profit, and Mr. Enock Makanga, the chairman of the Protective and Safety Association of Kenya. So very quickly, I'll begin with an introduction of who WAIS is, in case this is the first time you're engaging with us, so that you can get to know who we are. So believe it or not, this is an association that was started many years ago, but we registered ourselves last year and we launched last year. So we officially are less than 1 year old. And even during this time, I want to acknowledge that we've been able to do a lot, but not without the support of so many people that I'm seeing online today. Partners such as, I can see Usalama Reforms Caleb Wanga, discussing on issues of human rights. So the Association of Women in Safety Excellence is a platform for women to be able to discuss safety and security issues. So it began with just a few ladies who we often used to meet when it came to security meetings and even security board meetings. And we wondered, are we the only ones? And along the way, we've grown, and now we are almost 100. And of course, we want to be in the hundreds of thousands. And that's why today's theme is very important, which is Dare to Challenge. So our role is to be able to advance women's leadership in peace and security areas by inspiring and mentoring the next generation of women leaders, to create a platform for women in Kenya and beyond to connect through networking forums, support forums, and exchange programs. And already we have good traction with some of the international organizations, particularly dealing with women's issues that we'll soon be able to introduce. Again, we want to encourage women's right to safety in Kenya through exchange of information and knowledge. And I have to say, one of the most active WhatsApp groups I'm in is the WAIS group, where every day there's always a safety issue around women and children being discussed, solutions, sometimes even arguments. What was the right way to handle it? What was not the right way to handle it? A very active platform. And then to support those women who are already within the security industry to pursue and adopt non-conventional roles. You may agree with me that most often you'll find that the women who come into this sector will still come into what you'd call the soft roles of reception, the soft roles of just basic guarding. But how many are willing to be able to become technicians in terms of security tech installations, alarms and CCTV? How many are willing to be able to be dog handlers? How many are willing to be able to challenge the space of cybersecurity? So unfortunately, that sector has always given a particular role to women, and women have always only taken those. And I remember even in my career having a struggle just approaching the ladies to grow to be supervisors, to grow to be managers. And they said, I don't want the risks that come with that leadership. So very excited with the challenge and the opportunity we have today, which is to dare to challenge. And with us is an amazing key speaker, Dr. Patricia Murugami, someone I call a friend, a coach and a mentor. I have been her student. I have sat under her tree of knowledge, and she challenged me in ways I didn't imagine before. So Dr. Patricia Murugami is an award-winning, multiple award-winning mentor and coach. So she's a global leadership catalyst and the founder and CEO of Breakthrough Leadership Transformation. She's also an ITC. She trades global consultant specializing in crisis management, leadership, resilience, and normal strategies. She's a published author. I attended her book launch, Rise, a book that I was just telling her disappeared in my house very fast. Despite the fact that I had bought a few copies for my friends and family, anyone who got a grab of that book, Rise, fell in love with it, and it completely disappeared. And I'm actually hoping to get a few more copies, an inspirational book about how to be able to rise. So she's a published author, an award-winning speaker, and you will realize that very shortly, a transformational coach and a leadership educator. I met Dr. Pat when she was at Strathmore, leading the executive, the dean's office, particularly when it came to executive leadership. And she's purposely focused on areas of women and women leadership. And I recall doing a program called the Women Directors Leadership Summit. And everything I learned there was virtually telling me to unlearn everything I had learned before. Because what got you here won't be able to get you there. And Patricia does it with such grace, such accuracy, and such conviction. She's passionate about inclusive leadership and has enabled many women and other minorities in East Africa to serve as executive and board directors. She has also served on multiple boards and is a sought-after board advisor and executive team leadership coach. Getting her today to be able to speak was not an easy feat. Even for the launch last year, our schedules just couldn't, and that's because of how much she's sought after. If you've been following her on LinkedIn, if you've been following her on Instagram or on Facebook, you see that she has daily events, daily areas where she's speaking. And just yesterday evening, I know some of our WiSE members participated in her talk. And I was impressed that the numbers were above 470. So her work has reached over 60,000 people. And she has been honored by such awards as Top 40 Under 40 in 2010, and Jacob's Most Impactful 12 Women in the Region in 2015, and the National Diversity and Inclusive Business Executive Champion in 2019. She's joyfully married with beautiful children. And how she balances and how she has already made her young children already leaders is something that we look forward to also learning, because as women in security, this is one area, one of the many balls that we sometimes struggle to juggle. And so let's be able to put our quiet hands together and welcome you, Dr. Patricia. Karibu sana.
Thank you so very much, so very much. Good morning, all of you, all 31 of us. How are you all? Annette, I want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to serve WiSE. I particularly find the acronym for your association very empowering, and not only empowering on the outside, but empowering. I want to just start by saying that it's wonderful to also see men on this call, because it will take both men and women to move the needle forward. It's not us versus you, it's not you versus us, but together that we can actually rise. And so this next couple of minutes that we're going to share together, I want to encourage you to please put on your videos. I always say your next big interview will be done on a Zoom connection. So the sooner we know how to engage and how to connect, the better. But even as I start, I see some of you putting on your videos. I appreciate that. I know some of you may be in spaces where you can't, but as much as possible, we simulate a face-to-face situation. Chairman Cosmas Mutava, panelist Rosemary Wahome, Annette Kimitei, Naomi, your mom. I have had the absolute honor of seeing even the dynamic in terms of how Senaka has grown and how even as a family you continue to grow. So thank you for honoring me with an opportunity to serve you. I want to start by sharing a couple of ideas, and these ideas are in the format of slides and some reflections. And what do you see on this? What do you see on the screen? What do you see on the screen? You can just unmute. We are not so many, so I'll allow us to just, if you want to say something, just unmute, or you can put up your hand using the Zoom, and I'm happy to notice. What do you see on the screen, apart from the words? What do you see in the picture? What do you see? Can you see my screen? Or maybe you can't.
A very confusing road.
Okay, very confusing.
These are roads leading.
Yes, those are roads. Very true. Confusing Rhodes, what else are you seeing? What else are you seeing? And feel free to use the chat also. Someone can see a doodle. Thank you, Ruth. What else are you seeing?
Looks like spaghetti.
Looks like spaghetti. Someone is hungry early in the morning. I know there are some families where you eat dinner for breakfast, right? Which is okay. What else do you see?
You can see some a pool of water, if not a river.
Very true. Anything else?
There are buildings behind there.
Yes. Anything else?
It looks like a river.
Looks like a river. Anything else?
Grass.
Okay. So now let me help you out. Can you see the shape of a brain? Take a step back.
Yes, it's coming, it's coming.
Yes.
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 And that's how life is. We see what we think is most obvious based on our context. But sometimes if we take a step back or allow someone to just shift our perspective, we start to see something we probably would not have seen. And so I want to encourage you this morning to dare to open your mind, to raise your head. Some of the things I will say may be uncomfortable, but you know, it's in discomfort that we grow. It's in discomfort that we realize that what Annette was saying, that some of the things that we needed to have done in the past, we need to stop doing them now. And so today, my hope is that you dare to raise your head by allowing yourself to dream about who your next best self is. That you dare to challenge yourself. Don't sit here and say, I wish so-and-so was here. No, 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 no. You're the one who's on this particular session, and your example is the most powerful tool you can ever have. So to start off with that image, what do you see next? What do you see next?
A ship in troubled waters.
Yes, very true. Anything else we see? When is the last time we felt like this? Last year? A COVID year? Did we not feel as if we were sinking? We were trying to grasp onto the things we knew, the routines we had, the habits, even the way we do things, the way we work. And I know that the security space was really significantly impacted on because, I mean, people were not working in the offices. And so I know they scaled down on security services. So maybe this is how we felt, and maybe this is how we are continuing to feel because COVID-19 hasn't really gotten off the planet. But I want to encourage you that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. You see, the fact that each and every one of us is on this Zoom call means that we got through last year. And we got through last year, hopefully, with an arsenal of techniques, habits, and hopefully we built our character. But you see, as opposed to someone who has never had a rough time in their lives, then there are certain skills that you cannot develop in a vacuum. So I want to encourage us, if you're feeling that you're in turbulent waters, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. You see, I have a couple of friends in the security space, you know, from Annette, Naomi. I also have a couple of friends who are actually in the security space as professional guards. And I marvel at the way they keep their cool, at the way they hold their posture, at the way they actually say, you know what, this is where I'm going to use my skills to serve. And so remember that the turbulence is actually a teacher that is asking you, what is it that you need to learn in the turbulent space that you are in? What do you see on the screen? What do you see on the screen?
With a map.
Yes,
World
Ahmed.
map, yes.
Yes, thank you, Ahmed. Who else? By the way, my objective is to hear everyone's voice in the next 40 minutes. So feel free to talk.
Africa and the Mediterranean Sea and all the other oceans there.
Yes, very true. And I see Ruth on the chat saying the earth.
Yeah, I can see the earth. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Ruth. What else are you seeing?
Kind of a mapped global sort of a graphic with a population in red, which I don't know what it means.
Good. Now we are getting to the point. Thank you very much, Anthony. What is that red? What are those red things? Those populations you're thinking are populations. What are those red things?
I think they represent women, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, that's a good attempt. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. What else do you think the red represents?
I want to believe they represent population of something.
Chairman Cosmas, not quite. Sharon Cherono has got it. COVID-19. COVID-19. If you remember everything we saw last year, particularly when we saw the ads around keeping safe, the way the diagram of COVID was a red kind of a tree. Yeah, so thank you very much, Sharon, right there. And why it's important for us to think about this, and I see we are connecting this to women also, and I'll connect it later, is just for us to see what happened last year. You see, last year we had the struggle of feeling that we are in a dangerous space. And you see, in Chinese, what a contradiction, because COVID started in China. The word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other one represents opportunity. And I know that wise members always face danger, and sometimes that can be your main space, your main mind space. But today I want to welcome you to a different reframing, that even where you see danger, there's an opportunity for growth. And that opportunity is a choice that we make. So despite COVID showing up, you remember what they said about Africa, that we would die like rats? Thank goodness that did not happen. And I think the African people are very resilient. You know, my friends from Uganda came and said, COVID cannot kill us. We have struggled with tuberculosis, malaria, wars. I mean, really, COVID will not finish us. But I know that many people have lost their lives. And so for us is to realize that you have an opportunity to actually reframe danger as opportunity. So let's talk a little bit about the economic case of women and gender parity in Africa. McKinsey did some research last year but one. And they said that if we actually get to the gender parity space, we can add 316 billion to Africa's GDP by 2025, 3 years from now, if all the countries match the progress towards gender equality and equity of their best performing neighbor. Okay, so let's park that, 316 billion. But I think the piece of data that really stood out for me was how long would it take for Africa to reach gender parity at the current pace? 142 years. You know, just looking at the people on this particular conference call, I know that none of us is 142. I don't even think there's anyone who's 80. So if we are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, that is another lifetime and another lifetime. I think we cannot allow this statistic to be the reality. And so to ask ourselves, what can I do, me as a wise member, me who's listening to this, to accelerate progress? Personally first, because it's got to be personal before it becomes anything more. It must start personally in our space. So to accelerate progress, 5 things we can consider doing. The first thing is what you're doing: invest in human capital. Invest in your own personal growth. Don't wait for your employer to be the one who's training you. We saw last year very many online courses that were free, and it's so important that we choose to own our own learning. One of the things I encourage leaders to always do is have a small budget for your personal and professional growth. If the employer adds onto it, it becomes icing on the cake as opposed to you missing out on learning. Create economic opportunities. I think the fact that security firms have grown, there was a time where we only knew one security firm. I don't know that you remember those days. And as a result of that, I mean, there were no economic opportunities. But now we have so many that we even have an association for women in security. Leverage technology. We're doing exactly that now. Shape attitudes. That's what I hope to do today. And most importantly, enforce laws, policies, and regulations. But even if laws and policies are in place, if we don't reshape our attitudes by investing in human capital and in economic opportunities, by using technology, then those laws go to no benefit to us. So let's remember 142 years, and every day when you wake up, ask yourself, what am I doing today to become a better person, to actually grow so that I can reduce that gap and lift others as I rise? So looking at that data, why should we invest in women? I'm surprised that there are still people who still ask that question. And so I don't want to take it for granted, that it's actually the human thing to do. First, the human thing to do. Even the men on this call, I want to honor you because you're here to learn. But how did you come onto this earth? Through a woman, your mother. right? Some of you may be married, some of you may have daughters. It is in all our interests to ensure that we raise the bar and ensure that both men and women feel that they are able to actually invest and contribute to the progress of humanity. So what is interesting is a woman multiplies the impact of an investment made in her future by extending benefits to the world around her, creating a better life for her family and building a stronger community. So that's the reason why we need to invest in women. But even as we think about that, let's talk a little bit about what COVID did and the challenges that we may be facing as women. Women spend 3 times as many hours as men in unpaid care and domestic work, limiting their access to decent work. The global gender pay gap is stuck at 16%. And this is what I feel very angry about this, that women are paid up to 35% less than men. 35% less. So if a man is earning 100 shillings, a woman is earning 65 shillings. And yet it's the same kind of role and they both have the same level of competence. So the first piece of homework I want to encourage you to do is go back to your organizations and encourage your organizations to do a gender gap assessment, pay gap assessment, and see whether in truth 35% is less is what the women in your companies are working. And then globally, 65% of women had an account at a financial institution. Yeah? So the whole idea of looking at wealth and banking, and more importantly, financial management. So looking at these data points, what can we do today, this 10th of March, 2021? Africa must close its gender gap in order to succeed. And here, this is the reason why we are having this session today. I know that a lot happens between March 8th and March 15th, but I want to challenge us to not only have an event, but to actually dig deeper and have deeper leadership growth sessions and programs that will entrench the right behavior and focus on anti-bias. So, what do you see there? What do you see there? Anyone who has not spoken, I welcome your voice. What do you see there?
Road to success.
Road to success. I like that, Agnes. Road to success. That is called reframing challenges into opportunities. You're a quick learner. Thank you. What else are you seeing? Anyone else? A woman's career journey. Yes, Ruth. That is very true. How many of us are feeling like this even now? We are thinking, wow, it's early in the morning and all I can see is problems, problems, problems. There are mornings I wake up and I'm like, okay, I have a lot to do and many challenges to overcome. So that's a feeling that we may actually identify with. I see someone has said, superwoman, superwoman. Yeah? Can you see in the shadow, Rosemary Wahome says, superwoman. So as you look at this image, think about where you are now. The first thing I want you to ask yourself is, and Terry is saying, for growth, you must pass through challenges. Thank you, Terry. So the first thing I want you to ask yourself is, what is your current posture? Physically, right now, as you're listening to me. Are you slouched, just feeling, another call? Yeah? Is your posture one of sitting up and actually engaging fully with the conversation we are having here? Is your learning posture one of saying, I wonder what I learned today? I've listened to so many sessions, really? You know, that's a learning posture that is tilted, that is actually looking downwards rather than up. What about your posture towards challenges, towards dreaming about how you can be better than you are today? Is it a posture of regret, looking at the past where no one lives and you've chosen to live? Or is it a posture of saying, here is where I am and this is where I'm going? Okay. Now I like her posture because this lady's posture is focused on the finishing line. And for many of us, we actually are looking at the challenge right there at the start, as opposed to seeing, okay, all this is going on, but I want to get to the finishing line. Ladies and gentlemen, for 2021, what is your one goal professionally that you want to achieve? Please write it down either in the chat, but first and foremost, write it down in your journal. 2021, what is your first and most critical goal? And as you think about writing that down, I want to encourage you to also think about who is behind you. This image of Superwoman, it shows as if it's one person. But I have seen, to be where I am, it took very, very many people to get me here. For sure, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, both men and women. So we have a tribe of people behind us who are cheering us on. And the question is, who are you cheering on, even as you're being cheered on? So as we think about this image, it sets the tone for how we can now start to close that 142 years and that gender pay parity gap. So what has happened as a result of COVID-19? A couple of things for us to think about: technological shifts. I think we've started to see the robots are not coming, the robots are here. Robots are going to impact on security in a very significant way. So if I were in your shoes, I'd be asking myself, what are the skill sets that I need to learn to ensure that I am not outnumbered by the robots? Yeah? We've seen generational shifts, and we've also seen social shifts. How work is getting done, this working from anywhere means that security requirements for offices, in a sense, have reduced, but they haven't reduced without being translated to somewhere else. So what can we choose to do? Plan your future talent growth. Ask yourself today, can a robot take my job? Will a robot take my job? Even I ask myself that, because there's a lot of virtual reality learning that's happening. So what is that unique thing that I bring to the table? And how can I ensure that I don't get obsolete in my skill set? The other thing to think about is how generational shifts have actually focused on the future of work, how work is getting done, and how I can actually contribute better. So how do we do that? A couple of things that I want to encourage you to think about. The first thing is the 80-20 rule, 80-20 rule. All of you have heard about the Pareto rule. So research has shown us that many times 80% of our revenues come from 20% of our customers. For both men and women, you wear 80% of your clothes. You wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. From a social context, you probably get joy from 20% of your friendships. 20% of your friendships give 80% of your joy. But I want to talk about something a lot more serious. That when a woman sees a job advertisement with 10 items and she has 8 out of 10, she says, I won't raise my hand. I want to apply because you know what? I don't have the skill set. I don't have 2 things. And a man, with all due respect, I come from a family of only brothers, so I have seen this live. If he has 2 out of 10, he says, I'm going to apply. And the rest, if they think I'm good, I will learn as I go along. I think there's something we can learn from the men around confidence building and leveraging on their networks. So the first rule, dare to challenge yourself, is apply the 80-20 rule in such a way that it does not self-exclude you. You see, these self-exclusion habits and self-sabotaging habits of thinking that we're not good enough, we should leave them in the past. The fact that we're even having a Women in Security conference call today to celebrate International Women's Day means that someone paid the price for us a long time ago. So the first thing, choose and dare to challenge the impact of the 80-20 rule and use it to actually grow and raise your hand for the next big thing. The second thing, what do you see there? What do you see there? And I really must honor women in security and juggling families and your work. You know, I'm reminded of a friend of mine who had a very busy job. And one day she called home, she had a small baby. I'm so happy when you have a small baby. I've had small children, and you call home to find out how they're doing. And she called home and she said, and I'll speak in Kiswahili and translate, habari, mtoto ko sawa? Okay, sasa ninachelewa na kazi, so vile utafanya, utachemsha mtoto na uoshe sukuma wiki. You see how confused we can get? That her point was, I want you to wash the baby and cut and boil the spinach, the sukuma wiki. But sometimes you're so stressed out about just juggling all these roles. So what I want to encourage you ladies is it's true that multitasking is something that we are good at. It's something that even as you sit here, maybe your mind is in 5 other things. So this is what I want to encourage, and something very audacious. Multitasking is not good for you. The ability to actually say, now this hour, these 2 hours, I'm going to focus on this. And then if I must step out of this, I then step out of it and quickly focus on something else. As opposed to being on this Zoom call and on the side you're on WhatsApp, on this other side you've switched off your video, you put it on mute, you're busy trying to do something else, you end up losing out on everything. So the one thing I have learned from my husband is to single task. Many times he tells me, Patricia, I can't multitask. I don't even know how that story has morphed into 5 things. And what I have seen, even when I was doing my doctorate, is focus single-handedly on one thing. When it's time to study, study. When it's time to work, work. I'm impressed by one of my security friends. And what she did is she told me, Patricia, I don't look at WhatsApp between office hours. I was so impressed. She told me, I don't. And as a matter of fact, as guards, we're not supposed to be on our phone. And so I thought to myself, I could learn something from her. So let us learn to single task. Because when we switch tasks rapidly, you actually lose out on learning, you lose out on impact, and also lose out on what is called gravitas, the ability to be fully present and to influence with courage. All these things are ours, but there's a time for everything. And by choosing who can support you in different ways, then you can focus on the spaces where no one can contribute like you can. So this is the modern woman. This is my day. Every morning, I'm thinking about this class. I'm thinking about that board meeting. I'm thinking about the children going off to school. So-and-so has an exam. I need to pray for her at 10 o'clock because I know she was panicking. That's my husband. He needs his breakfast. That's the house help. She's coming in because we don't have a living. That's how life is. But it's very easy to touch on everything and achieve nothing. So focus your attention. In fact, as a piece of advice, as a second thing around single tasking, ladies and gentlemen, plan your tomorrow today. Plan your tomorrow today. Write down what are the 2-3 things I must do exceptionally well tomorrow. And then wake up in the morning with clarity of mind around what it is that you need to do. Procrastination is another thing that holds us back. And in my book, Rise, which is here, I talk about procrastination as one of the things that holds women back and challenges us from growing. And I like what Bishop Rosie O'Neill said, that procrastination is the arrogant assumption that God owes you another chance to do tomorrow what he gave you the chance to do today. Ouch. How many things have we said we're going to do? I'm going to read that book. I'm going to follow through on this thing. And then we say, tomorrow. And you see what happens? Procrastination is very connected to the previous discussion around multitasking. If I'm constantly looking at my phone, instead of focusing on preparing my next session, my next board meeting, my next class, what happens is I keep pushing away that preparation. And as a result of that, when I finally do it, I do it in a rush and I don't give it a high level of excellence. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the third enemy I want you to fight, procrastination. Our ability to choose. And I know that time management, as Purity is saying, is not a joke. I wake up at 4:30 every morning. We don't have a live-in household. We chose not to have one because I felt that it was important that as with our children, we learn how to do the housework and we do it with the dignity of the human person. You know, it's wonderful when I hear my 13-year-old telling her cousins, me, I can wash the dinner dishes in 15 minutes. I am so proud of her. But I dare say it was not easy. It was an issue of having a timetable in the house. You wash breakfast, you wash lunch, you wash dinner. So that's just housework. How about academics? How about your own learning? Challenge yourself to actually manage your time. Robin Sharma in his book, The 5 a.m. Club, and we'll talk about the books that you're reading. Show me your books and I'll tell you who you're becoming. In the 5 a.m. Club, excuse me, he talks about the fact that you need to actually safeguard the first hour of your day. Don't go online. First 60 minutes of your day, exercise, reflect or pray, and read something. 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. By the time you go online, you have already revamped your energy for yourself. And it's so important that we honor ourselves. Wise women, wise men, you're at the service of others. Ring fence your boundaries around the space you need to grow. So how do we move ahead, knowing what it is that we're struggling with? Focus on where you want to go, not on what you fear. Starve your distractions, my personal favorite. Feed your focus. So write down three things in the chat, or on you can write one thing on the chat, but 3 things that actually prevent your time wasters. What are your time wasters currently? Time wasters. What are your time wasters? Because we need to starve those ones. Those are your distractions. What are your time wasters? Anyone would like to write in the chat or say, what is one of your time wasters? Yes, Caroline? I see you're unmuted. You'd like to say something? Okay. YouTube, thank you very much. YouTube can be a time waster, and I have a YouTube channel which I encourage you to come and watch, but you have to guard how much time you put on your phone, on YouTube, on Facebook, on social media. Now you can imagine I have a lot of social media work to do. But yesterday, there's a lady who called me and said, hey, Patricia, I've seen you have not been online for the last 3 hours. I said, yeah, I have to get offline several times in a day, because if I stay online, I could be doing that the whole day. So I have LinkedIn, where about almost 20-something thousand followers. People inbox me, and I encourage you, please inbox me so that we can continue this conversation on LinkedIn. And I'm doing a lot of mentorship there. Another space that I'm spending a little time is the ability to actually mentor those who are younger and also my peers on a Woman of Substance Telegram channel. It's a one-way channel, but people inbox me. Then there's Instagram, and then there's Facebook, and then there's YouTube, and then I have my weekly podcast, and I have a lot. How have I managed? It's because I have learned from people who've gone ahead of us to actually choose to focus. Patricia is saying something, Patricia Gaki, there around calls with people who keep going on and on and on. My father taught me something about phone calls. If you know that you have a friend who will talk on and on and on, just be very honest and say, imagine today I just have 5 minutes for this call. And when 5 minutes are over, just tell her, I need to go. And over time, what happens is you learn to be a lot more specific about your conversation. Failure to plan, which I talked about before, procrastination. And procrastination usually comes from fear. I don't like doing admin. I need to go and now apply for that passport, but I need to travel and serve people in a different market. So to overcome procrastination and stress, choose to do the big ticket item first. The thing you most dislike is the one you ought to start your day with, because it's the one that will actually give you a lot of energy. So starve your distractions, feed your focus. The Charles Handy, one of the top thinkers in the UK, did something around the sigmoid curve, which I know all of us went through high school, and we're wondering why we are learning the S curve. But today I want to ask you, in terms of your career, where are you? Are you at the inception stage where you're just learning, getting onto the career? Are you at the growth stage where there's a lot of growth? Are you at maturity where you're actually growing and now you're feeling, I know these things, I need to become better at something else? Or are you on the decline where you're feeling, this job, I need to do better, I can be more, I need to do more? Or are you even off the curve? Where are you on this sigmoid curve? So Charles Handy challenges us to look at growth and time. And what he challenges us to do is to ensure we ask ourselves, first, where are we? And then he challenges us to ask ourselves, where should I reinvent myself? Where should I dare to challenge myself to grow? Is it at maturity, decline, growth, or inception? He challenges us to actually reinvent ourselves at the growth level. And that is such an important piece of insight, because many times we try and reinvent ourselves, disrupt ourselves at the maturity stage when you're bored, when you feel you've done this job for too long, when you feel, hey, everyone else is going farther ahead than me. But I want to encourage, it's not about others. It's about asking yourself, am I better today than I was yesterday? If the answer is no, ask yourself, what is it that is pulling you backwards? And so when we reinvent ourselves at the growth stage, it's not easy because things are going very well. When your career is at its best, what happens? You sometimes give in to what is called arrogance, the arrogance of not wanting to receive feedback, The arrogance of feeling, I have made it. Did you know how far I've come? I started there, and you can see where I am now. I want to encourage you, ladies and gentlemen, to challenge yourself. When your career is growing, surround yourself with people who will have the courage to tell you, the way you're becoming, the way you're behaving, no, this is not going to work. And so to reinvent ourselves, it means we need to reinvent ourselves and disrupt ourselves and improve ourselves when the going is good, not only when the going is tough. As you can see in that image, someone is going up. What can you see? Let me hear from you. What can you see in that image? What can you see in that image? Now we have 54 of us, which means even more people can respond. What are you seeing on this image? Yes, you chat, elevating others. Yes. What else are you seeing? Thank you, Rosemary, Wahome. What else are you seeing? Leading and creating a path for others. Thank you, Justus. Sienna, a woman setting the path for others. Joyce is saying a guide. Yes. What else are you seeing? What else are you seeing? What a man can do, a woman can do. Absolutely. Risk taking. Yes, Sophia, you're absolutely right. So you can see a number of things. The first thing I want you to recognize is that there's no path. In fact, this guy seemed to be walking on water. And it's so important for us to realize that many times, if you're courageous enough and if you're purposeful enough, you'll be charting a path where no one has charted that path. So here you can see the turbulent waters. But what can you see? This woman was initially down here. She took that rope, and decided to unravel it as she goes ahead. But she didn't tell people, you go, I'll be coming. No, no, no. And women who are wise know that you actually have to choose to be courageous. In fact, I want to encourage you that the biggest security a woman can ever have is courage. Courage. Courage is the biggest security a woman can have. And so when you think about that, I want you to think about how many spaces can you chart a new path. So she took the first step. But once you take the first step, your legs are ready to take the next step. And so she had to unravel the rope. She took the next step, and then she called the gentleman. And that's why I said it's not us versus them. And she said, hey, come, join me. And he's like, okay, you don't seem to be sinking. Let me follow you. Please note her posture. I talked about posture in the beginning. Straight back, facing forward, looking at the vision. Ladies, gentlemen, dare to dream about a better vision than what you are in now. Our inability to dream, our inability to reflect, our inability to start, even where the path is not clear, is what holds us back into what I call the prison of the past. That this is where I came from, and this is where I am, and this is where I'll die. No, this is not where you'll die. That is a choice that you can make to actually elevate, grow, and with courage, unravel that rope. So you can see now at the back there, there's a young woman, maybe it's her daughter, maybe it's an intern, maybe it's her sister. And the sister is saying, hey, my sister could move forward, so can I. Remember, going up alone is useless. It's useless. If we rise only for our own sake, don't rise. Don't rise. The kind of model I want to encourage you to have is only rise as you lift. Yesterday when we had the session, and some of you joined us, one of the ladies I worked with at Stratford Business School many years ago did the vote of thanks. And she really touched me. I don't even remember telling her what she said. One of the things she said is, Patricia, thank you so much for the session, but you reminded me that when we go up with the elevator, she said, thank you for doing what it is you teach us. But her point was, I taught her this statement, that when you go up with the elevator, make sure you send it down to pick others. Don't cut off the elevator hinges and say, now the elevator is only going to serve this floor. And now that I'm at the front, that's the only place where I should be. No, no. The real leadership is our ability to help ourselves become our next best selves, so as to enable others become their next best selves. And every time we are driving into a place and a security professional asks us, can I check, greets us so professionally, I always tell my children, look at him, look at her and say thank you. Because this is their office. And I remember working in several places where people would come and say, there's no parking. And he's driving a big car and he says, tells the security guard, do you know who I am? Let me show you who I am. But the guard is like, it doesn't matter who you are. There is no space. And the man would have to reverse. And I'm usually behind that gentleman who's driving like that. And I would ask the guard, hey, Pole Sana, that person has really treated you with disrespect. And I remember one guard who told me, I don't let that disrespect come to me, hurt me. I don't, because I know people come here with a lot of pain and baggage. And my role is not for them to dump it onto me. I just choose to keep a boundary. And so wise women and wise men, raise your boundaries with courage. Raise them by choosing this year. How many books are you going to read? My intention is to read 100 books. That was my intention last year. I read maybe 42, but I wrote one book, which I think is equivalent to reading 50. Yeah. And so what are your goals? Make them specific. Don't be ambiguous about your personal journey. And you're so specific about the corporate journey. You know the mission, the vision, and the strategy of the company that hires you, but you don't have any to do with yourself. I want to encourage you, be like this woman. Chart the path where no one else can have seen the path and allow other people to move forward with you. Ladies, as I come to a final, ladies and gentlemen, as I come to the end of my presentation today, look at that image. That is actually the basis of my book. In my book, I talk about raise your heart. Have the courage to know what it is that you're fearful about. And then choose to do something about those fearful spaces, because fear can trap you from moving forward. Raise your heart with courage. Raise your head by choosing to learn. How many programs can you do this year to improve your intellectual and mental capabilities? You see, many of us are in a space which is called a space of unconscious incompetence. You know what space that is? That's a space where you don't even know what you don't know. And on top of that, we are too arrogant to even say we don't know. I want to encourage you, reduce that space by surrounding yourself with people who are better than you, who know something that you don't know, and allow yourself to have a beginner's mindset. Raise your head. Raise your hand, which is what we've been told to do in International Women's Day, to choose to challenge. But raise your hand to actually put your hand up to contribute, to give your solutions, to apply for the next big job, to lift another person by saying, I liked what so-and-so said. But as you raise your hand, this other hand should be down here, lifting at least 5 people as you rise up. Let's not be those women or men who rise up, hold on to the ladder for dear life. And when we get to the top of this mountain, we throw off the ladder so no one else can come up. That cannot be us, not in this day and time. So let's be the kind who can raise each other up, the last H of my manifesto, for a higher purpose. You know, I love it when I see men being champions for women, as I know they will be in the panel, because these men have realized that this world is actually for both men and women, even if culturally the patriarchal system actually made women be the kind that were not seen, heard, or could not even speak. You see, the higher purpose of thinking about your children's children, and the kind of world they will meet is enough for you to choose to rise as you lift others. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope that this session has given you light, has engaged you and ignited the light within you so that you can turn on the light. Because as I say in my book, and I'll just quote that, be a bridge, not a ditch, to our session yesterday. Marianne Williamson says, your playing small doesn't serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so others won't feel insecure around you. As you let your own light shine, you indirectly give others permission to do the same. May we be the kind of women, the kind of men who do not put off the bulb of another person so that our bulb will shine brightly. May we dare to dream to become better and our next best selves. May we dare to challenge the biases, and may we dare to challenge the prisoners of being in the past. I wish you the very best, and I encourage you to keep rising as you grow and lifting others. Thank you. I now welcome questions. I see a couple of questions. Annette, do you want me to pick up the questions that I can already see? I can already see some questions.
So someone is, Joy is going through the questions shortly. We'll be able to get there, but so inspirational, my goodness. Whether you are a wise woman or a wise man, today there's definitely a punchful that we are carrying home. And I think we begin with our own self punches, because half of us are already in everything you've listed there and have been swallowed in the chaos. And I'm just thinking about it as all the participants pose at least a question or a comment. I want to throw a few things to you, Patricia. Number one is you're very passionate about the topic on self-mastery. And I remember part of the things you are working on towards the International Women's Day is that you sent out 28 amazing topics, each for a day until the D-Day itself. And I remember on the 9th day, there was this one that says, focus on mastering yourself by first knowing yourself and your triggers. And again, in your journal, you said that leadership begins with self-mastery. What is self-mastery?
A great question, Annette, and I'm so grateful you've asked it, because many times we hear leadership, we think political leadership, isn't it? Or we think those guys at the top. But today I'm here to encourage all of you that each of us are leaders in our own right. Leaders without title is the most powerful way of leading. In fact, today we started something else called the Women of Substance, and I'm sharing 40 quotes. So I said, let me now go further. And that's a closed group, and I welcome all of you. I've even seen men joining it. And the thing I say today is that your example is the most powerful leadership tool. Your example publicly and privately. And what do I mean? That our ability to know ourselves is the first step towards self-mastery. Know yourself. Know what it is that triggers you negatively. Know what it is that actually pulls you down. You know, yesterday, these quotes some of them have been very controversial. Some people just did not appreciate one or two of them. And there's a group where since Sunday, they've been discussing and tearing down one of my quotes. And it has been very painful, because that's a group of women I know very well. And they're doing that and they know I'm there. But I think for them, it was more of an intellectual discourse. Let's discuss this thing. But it became personal. Yesterday, I chose, because I was being triggered and I was getting so worked up and so upset the more I would read. So yesterday, I chose to put away that group, archive it. I won't get out because that's childish, because I still need to influence, but I decided to archive it. Do you know your triggers, the things that make you get the worst out of yourself? Do you know also the things that actually help you grow? Sometimes there are people, conversations, contexts, environments. Now, when you have a self-awareness, then you start to manage yourself. You say, you know what, when I'm very hungry, I'm likely to be not very polite. When I haven't prepared well for the meeting, I'm more likely to be rude towards my team. When I haven't, you see, and it's so important to know even the basics, and I haven't slept well, I'm as cranky as a young child. And for many of us, we are neglecting sleep. And so when you know what your trigger is, you start to manage it. And the more you manage it with the positive habits, you become a master of yourself. I want to say that self-mastery is a journey of a lifetime. I think we'll only know whether we've mastered ourselves in the next world. But you can tell that you mastered yourself. The other day, my husband told me, hey, Patricia, do you see the way these days I don't lose my temper? You know, and I said, even me, I'm really trying. I come from Nyeri, and you know, Nyeri people can really lose their tempers. And so I was telling him, I have taken the advice of my show, who said, when you feel yourself being triggered, take a glass of water and keep it in your mouth, especially when you're getting feedback, and just allow yourself to put yourself in the other person's shoes as they're telling you what they're telling you, so that by listening, then you can have a way to influence with courage, but I dare say also with a calmness and dignity towards the other person. So self-mastery is the way to become leaders. All of us, even my 4-year-old child, can be a leader if she chooses to master herself. If you choose to master yourself by recognizing the space for reflection, for feedback, and for acting with agility and with accountability.
Thank you. To self-mastery in wise. And again, on day 18, this one was very interesting for a group we were discussing. On day 18, you said, Be wisely vulnerable as you raise your accountability. So we know there's vulnerable. And you know, we are in security where you don't want to feel vulnerable. But what is this wisely vulnerable?
Another very profound question. You know, a lot of people believe being vulnerable is a weakness. And Dr. Brené Brown, who's done a lot of research and she's written the book, There to Leave, my shelf right here, talks about the fact that being vulnerable is being human. Now, it's great that you brought the issue of being in security, because there are these things that we call occupational hazards. If you're an accountant, you tend to be very mean, yeah, because you are taught to be prudent, right? And in a sense, you don't want to be mean. You're just saying, let me use my money wisely. If you're a lawyer, you're trained to argue out everything, even when you're arguing with yourself, you know? So sometimes these occupational hazards block us from growing. Now we're in security and we say, vulnerability. In fact, we are taught to ensure we secure any spaces of vulnerability in our clients' environments. But what I mean by wisely vulnerable is to recognize when you're struggling. You see, the story I've told you about that group is a story of wise vulnerability. I want to tell it to you because I want you to see that even I also struggle, and the struggles are real. But I'm not going to tell you which group, what they said, because I also want to ensure that I don't disclose too much that I am unfair also towards them. Even if they may have been unfair towards me, I don't have to revenge. In these days of social media, vulnerability, foolish vulnerability is posting where you are every minute of the day. That is foolish vulnerability, where you're saying everything everywhere. I can tell what you ate for lunch yesterday. When people used to travel, I'm now at Heathrow. You're like, that's even a security risk tied to your point that you have traveled. But wise vulnerability is choosing a close circle of 2 or 3 people who you know have your back, what I call your personal board of directors, who you can speak to and actually say, you know what, I'm really struggling with this issue. And I just need some insights on how to move forward. You know, our mothers have taught us how to be really good friends. I think we've lost the art of friendship. We're very connected, but we're not deeply friendly with each other. And so the call to action to each of us is to challenge ourselves and ask ourselves, who can I appoint on my personal board of directors? 2 or 3 people. You know, younger people say you're in my squad, others say you're in my tribe. And I don't mean ethnicity, I just mean the tribe of people who actually see where you're going and can push you further. But I challenge each and every one of us, consider your personal board of directors, let them know your goals, let them know your struggles towards those goals, and let them know how they can help you propel yourself forward. That is wise vulnerability.
Wow, and I know the topic on accountability partners or your accountability board is one for definitely another day. And I know you have sessions which we'll get to later so that we know how do we engage further as men and women in security in order to be to improve ourselves. You're very passionate about this topic on whose shoulders are you standing on? And remember, in WISE and in this audience, we have men and women who have stood on other people's shoulders. Some of them are in the police, others are in prison, others are in private security. Why is it important for us to realize whose shoulders we are standing on, and how do we do it without also feeling like without you, I wouldn't be here? Because often in security, there'll be that definition of, you know, I made you. You know, kama si wewe. And that becomes always the shadow with which women want to hide under.
It's another very powerful question. You see, the reason why I talk about the shoulders we stand on, and I talk about it actually as the first chapter in the book, and thank you so much, Annette, for talking about the book, because we are not here by mistake. We're here because someone charted the path for us. And the reason why recognizing that is so important, and the homework I'll give you, is to write down 5 people, 5 men and 5 women who've helped you get to where you are. And after these sessions today morning, after the panel and the whole event, call them up, seek them out and tell them thank you. Because you see, were it not for the lessons they taught you, and some lessons are painful, but the lessons that they taught you, chances are you would not even be on this call. You wouldn't be where you've reached in terms of your life. And so to recognize that is what is called the spirit of gratitude. And leaders who are more grateful tend to have a higher level of emotional intelligence. You see, when you're grateful, you're not entitled. When you're grateful, even when things are very fearful, you recognize how far you've come. You see, leaders who are grateful are not only about the half glass empty, half full notion. They truly believe that the glass is refillable. That it's not about half empty or half full. It's that you can refill the glass from different perspectives. So building that ability, and one of the things I try and do every night, I haven't done so well this week, it's been an intense week, is to write down 3 things I'm grateful for at the end of every day. I try very hard to do that because even when you go to bed on that note of gratitude, even the way you rest improves. But I think one of the best things that happens with gratitude is you start to realize that you're a drop of 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 an icon of a drop of water in a very big ocean. And I think that has been said by Sunny Bindra, that who's Patricia? I'm just using my voice in the best way I can and the intellect and the experiences I have to lift you up. Someone else will do something else. Someone else will do something else. And so it's so important for us to recognize, yes, with that humility, but also recognizing that those talents that have been given to you are not supposed to be buried in the ground. They are supposed to be lifted out of the ground, weed them out, let them germinate, and ensure that they actually can provide shade for someone who you don't even know. So I look back and I think about my dad. He taught me something very powerful. He told me, Patricia, when things are tough, and when you feel you're losing your temper, rather than raise your voice, raise the quality of your argument. Raise the quality of your argument. And that lesson has stood with me for a long time. And so there's no way we could have gotten here without the men and the women in our lives. My husband teaches me how to depersonalize feedback. Very early in our marriage, I would be very, very upset when I'm corrected. We've been married almost 20 years now. So I am confident that I can say I don't take it too personally. But he used to tell me, Patricia, that was just feedback for you to improve. Why is it that you're remembering what I told you 5 years ago? You know, the first 5 years are very tough, by the way, those of you who are in the marriage space. But I want to encourage you, the ability to depersonalize feedback is another way in which we actually stand on the shoulders of giants. And sometimes our giants are our family members, our children, our friends, our parents, our siblings, people who have actually sacrificed something for us to move forward. And so, that question around gratitude, I want to encourage you, let's make it a habit. Let's make it a habit. And then you will find you'll never feel entitled. And in a sense, more opportunities come your way when you actually make it a habit.
Beautiful. And I know you covered this in one of your journals. I have your journal here.
Thank you.
and just to encourage, because I know we are probably in security, we don't like journaling other than the occurrence book and the visitors register. But what your book taught was, for example, last year, what stands out most in the year? What is in your gratitude list? What are your hopes and dreams and intentions? But there's one question that I'd like to really focus on, which is around the area of learning, unlearning, and relearning. A very powerful topic that you cover in your book and in your journal. What is that all about?
Another profound question. You know, for us to have gotten how far we've gotten, chances are there are certain habits. In the first part of my career, I was a very impatient person. I was like, you know what, we've got to get moving, we have to get moving. And in a sense, you achieve a lot. But unfortunately, what happens when you get to start leading teams, you have to realize that it's so important to carry people along with you. So I had to unlearn impatience and learn how to be patient. And you see, by doing so, you can influence someone to even go much farther and faster than you'd have done if you are pulling them forward. So ask yourself, that goal that I asked you to write down, your 2021 professional goal, what is one habit that is preventing you from achieving it? Laziness, procrastination, perfectionism, false modesty, not asking for help, Superwoman or Superman mentality? What? What are the things? Lack of emotional intelligence, a hot temper, feeling that you don't matter? What are the things? You know, carrying bitterness from an experience that hurt you many years ago. That person has moved on, that situation has moved on, but we are stuck there. So ask yourself, what is standing between me and that goal? And then ask yourself, what do I need to then learn? So the thing that is standing between you and that goal is what you need to unlearn. So fear, I see someone has asked about fear. Fear is part of the human existence. Acknowledge fear. Don't run away from fear. Actually, if you have ever seen someone who is paralyzed, they can't feel the fear. So fear is actually part of our healthy human experience. And fear in its healthy context can actually help us prepare better, work harder, do better, prepare ruthlessly, and aim for excellence. Now, the unfortunate kind of fear that we need to unlearn is the one that paralyzes your ability to move forward. And so I like to say that when it comes to fear, fear stands for two kinds of sentences. Forget everything and run. You know, you've forgotten how far you've come, you've forgotten how much you've done, and you run away from whatever it is that's causing you fear. But I have found a better way of looking at fear is face it in the face. So what is this fear trying to teach me? And so instead of running away or not doing that which you're feeling fearful about, F stands for face everything is E and rise. Face everything and rise. So it's so important. And I see a couple of questions there around intimate partner violence and how it's affecting esteem of women. You know, women, we must learn to speak up. And men, speak up when you're being abused, when you're being hurt. Your worthiness is not pegged on a relationship that is out to finish and kill you. It's not. And I'm a big proponent for marriage, big proponent for families. But if you are dating a guy, ladies, you're dating, he's not even married and he slapped you, run for the hills. Talk to someone and actually say, I need to change the locks. And you men, same thing with you. Yeah, if you're dating a woman who anytime she sees you talking to someone else, she wants to pour hot water on you, what are you doing with her? You see, it's so important for us to raise our boundaries. And that's a space for unlearning. And I like the question, Annette, because we need to unlearn some of those taboos and secrets that we've kept deep inside us. Those things become brain tattoos that prevent you from growing and from going much further. So at the end of the day, one other thing I try and do, 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then one of the things we do as a family is what are the highlight and the lowlights. And that's usually a sign of what is it that went well and what didn't go well. And sometimes you hear the feedback and you're like, okay, the lowlight was when mom shouted at me. So, and I'm the mom, yeah? So I have to ask myself, how am I still shouting? I need to unlearn that, you see? So the only way for us to move forward is to recognize that we are a work in progress, but you're also a masterpiece simultaneously. Don't think you're a masterpiece, I'll never do anything, or you're a work in progress, you'll never amount to anything. No, consider connecting the two. Someone asked me to repeat, depersonalize feedback. Get the feedback and try and not make it personal. Lastly, when it comes to learning, unlearning, and relearning, recognize the space you are in with bosses who may want you to be seen and not heard. I have been in spaces where I'm teaching and someone tells me, Patricia, you're the one who's coming to teach us. You remind me of my granddaughter. And I'm like, okay, I know where that's coming from. Culturally, women and children, and I have some friends who, when we ask them, how is the family? They can never say women and children. Those women are also bunched with children. It's culture, yeah? And I no longer take offense. I just say, okay, that's culture. But how can we then help them see that you can make the world better for their children? Because especially for men, their children are really important. How you deal with such people is recognize that they're coming from a space where they may not know, recognize they sometimes may feel insecure about you, and choose to work on a joint goal so that when they're actually the ones who will turn around and say, you're the one to go and speak for us because you will help us move our goal forward. So I hope that that has answered the question around unlearn, learn, and relearn. Dare to challenge yourself to do the 3. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Patricia. Amazing. And just 2 more questions from the team, which will be taken by my colleague here, Joy. And as Joy prepares to come on board, you know, we were asking ourselves, we're around 4 in the room, and we're asking ourselves how many books we've read. And we were ranging from 2 to 5. And you know, there's a question of audiobooks. Do they count? Because 100, I read 24 books. Some I perused through, I didn't finish. Some bored me to death. And I thought I was really, how do you do 100 books, Patricia?
Oh, that's a great question. Audiobooks. I love audiobooks. I get into the car, I'm driving to my next meeting. I put on chapter 2. I see traffic. I'm like, hallelujah. Today we shall cover 6 chapters before I get there. Instead of cussing and feeling negative about traffic, what can you do about traffic? I leave my house sometimes at 5:45 and I'll still find traffic. So it's not an issue of I didn't plan well. It's just that I have built in traffic into my program. So how about you actually download Audibles, download Kindle. Very soon my book is going to be, I'm going to be reading my book out, so it will be available on Audible. Also because I recognize that we need to be a lot more inclusive and there are people who can't read and are more likely to hear. But yes, audiobooks count. When women, wise women, I know you do housework. What are you listening to when you're doing your housework? You're ironing a shirt there, you're doing some mundane cleaning up. I know it's great to listen to music, but how about you say, before I listen to music, I must read, learn, listen to 5 more chapters. I challenge you and I dare to challenge you. If you use audiobooks, you will read at least 2 books a week, without a doubt. If you're not the one driving, even better. You enter Matatu, plug in the earphones and get on with it. And that way, you will realize that when everyone else is there watching the screen of all those YouTube videos and all sorts of things that in a sense you shouldn't even be watching, you are choosing what you listen to, what you watch, and what you internalize, because that's what will make you a better person. And that's why when a conversation, I see Doris, my friend right here, a conversation with Doris is very different with a conversation with someone else, because Doris comes to the table in a very knowledgeable and a calm way. And I met Doris when I was doing some work at the World Bank. How is it that that connection, meeting her there, is a connection that we are going to keep now already 2 years and counting? Because we show up based on what we internalize. And so I really want to, you're most welcome, Doris. I really want to welcome all of you to dare to challenge yourself to become your next best self. Become your next best self unapologetically. Become your next best self intentionally, and become your next best self with courage. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Patricia, for this wonderful presentation. Listening to you, I was actually blown away by the number of years it would take us in Africa to actually reach gender parity. That's really, because for me, it is at that point where I want to thank you for standing in that space. And a lot of us wise women here are probably wondering and would like to ask the question that what drives you, other than empowering the women? What is it that is innate within you that drives you?
What a wonderful question. And actually, I am passionate about raising the human potential of every human being, men and women, children, old, young, and the differently abled. I believe that each of us, for as long as you're breathing, and because I was a subject, I received a lot of, discrimination earlier on in my life. And it was painful. And I know that spaces where you feel pain are very connected to your purpose. So because of surrounding myself with older friends, more mature people, I'm very unapologetic about asking for help. I'm a Roman Catholic, so I see the priest every week. I have a coach in my budget every year. I have to speak to my coach, therapist, whatever it is you need for the season you are in. And because of realizing that we can't do this alone and having experienced the other side of it, I realized, no, I can use my voice, my intellect, my talents, my networks, my experience to give someone permission to just raise their hand and become a better person. So for me, it's very connected to my divine assignment on earth. People ask me, what do you eat for breakfast? You have so much energy. Frankly, I woke up at 4:30 and I had no energy. But because I'm meeting all of you, I said, you know what? let me just get on my energy because it comes from a purposeful place. And I think my prayer for you, for each of you on this WISE session is to really spend the time to discern your divine assignment, your purpose, the reason why you're put on earth. Each of us, for as long as you're breathing, has a divine assignment. Let's not go 6 feet under, hopefully when you're 100 plus, and look back and think, I wasted my time on sideshows and distractions instead of the real assignment that I had been given. So that's the reason why I'm passionate and unapologetic about the work that I'm doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That is some invaluable piece of advice to take away from this meeting. And as you sent out a call to action to the ladies for today's theme, to dare ourselves to challenge. And in one of your, when you were speaking during the presentation, you called us out to challenge ourselves to grow. As wise women, we want to ask, how do we prepare ourselves for this growth? Given all the challenges that are out there awaiting us, how do we prepare for this growth?
You know, the first and best way to prepare for growth is to have a beginner's mindset. Let me tell you a very short story. When I got my PhD in 2018, so I had done it for a couple of years. My school is in Paris, and the defense is done on video. So I didn't know that that defense was preparing me to deliver a session like I have today. That was 2018. So they told me, Patricia, you don't need to fly into Paris. The panel is sitting from all over the world. Just make sure you have a strong connection, and you're going to actually have 10 minutes to explain your dissertation. 10 minutes to explain 6 years' work, a 60,000 research document in 10 minutes. So the first thing I was told is practice, practice, practice. So I would make sure I would practice. My children were much younger, and to explain to them what this dissertation was. And you know, I remember practicing to my daughter, the younger one, with her dolls, her 5 dolls there, as if they were the panel, you know? And then she asked me, and what does that mean? Transformation mean? And I'm like, okay, let me unpack it. And what was the lesson? Give yourself permission to become a beginner, no matter how high you have gone. Yes, I'm a doctor, but there's so many things I don't know. And by her asking me, what does the word transform? She couldn't even say the whole word because she was what, 4? Transformation mean? I was able to then unpack it and even challenge myself. Do I even know how I can explain this thing? Because in our doctoral research, one of the things they told us is the real mark of an expert is to be able to break down very complicated things into simplified concepts and actions that people can take. And so that's the first thing I want to encourage you. The way to prepare yourself for growth is shift your mindset and tell yourself, yes, I know some things, but am I willing to learn from others? And am I willing to have a beginner's mindset? That by far is what will grow your learning agility. If you do that, the rest will come easy.
Right. Thank you, Daktari. And I mean, we wish this could go on forever. And we know that with you, definitely you'll be there to hold our hands. And there's one final quote. The day you said, the future is not female. I am working towards making the future more human and humane. And we are many humans in this room, and I know many of them want to interact with you. So as you clarify that statement for International Women's Day, please highlight how we can be able to engage with you, either at a personal level as WISE. And I just want to mention that this is a WISE event, but WISE cannot be without its partners. And we have our very valuable partners here. We have an association known as PSIA, which is an umbrella association with many criminologists. We have the Association of Certified Security Practitioners, ICSMP. We have the Protective Security Industry Association, which is for companies. And we have PROSAK, which is the Protective Association, which also covers safety and security. And I also wish to recognize the presence of others like Michelle Quinn, who was there during our launch and was a key speaker to the State Department, all the way from the US, and a very fond member of WISE. And I'll give you a moment later to say hello, and also remembering Caleb Wanga from Usala who's very keen on human rights issues. So all of us are interested in much more. What is this, Patricia, that you do, and how do we engage with you?
Thank you so very, very much. The future is not female, unapologetically. And you can imagine how much work I've done to raise the female, the female leaders all over the world. I think my argument is, yes, we can all rise up, but if we don't do it in a human way, then all our work will have gone to waste. I have found that where I have worked with both men and women to reduce the gender gap, one of the companies we've worked with, the gender gap is like so little, if anything, the gender pay gap, is because both men and women could see the benefit. And so that's the reason why the future is more human and more humane. In terms of how you can engage with me, let me just share screen and share with you very quickly. And I'm happy to send this out also. You can contact us on our website at bltgroup.co.ke. You can also connect with me directly on LinkedIn, Dr. Patricia Murugami. You can follow us on Your Next Best Self podcast on YouTube, and you can email us on lead@bltgroup.co.ke. On our website, you will have an opportunity to also purchase the book. I encourage you, don't only buy a copy for yourself, buy a copy also for your friends and your family. Let me see if I can also share with you one other way in which you can connect with us. One other way you can connect with us. Just 1 minute. Okay. Some of you were asking me even yesterday around how you can access the book. And so I want to encourage you that in terms of accessing the book, you can do so in the following ways. And thank you very much for the opportunity to serve you. Really an opportunity. You can get the book from all these places: Rafu, Textbook Center, Amazon. Those of you who are outside the country, you can get it on Kindle, Nuria, The Honest Store, Carrefour. And if you want an autographed copy, please get it from me and autograph it. And then finally, how else can you keep learning? To actually keep learning, I want to encourage you, invest in your learning. We have a Breakthrough Africa Women in Intentional Leadership Network. And we meet virtually, but we also meet face-to-face. And this coming Saturday, we have our first face-to-face event. And I feel it's important because it would be unfortunate, and I've been given a chance to share this, to encourage you to join us. Also because the kind of people you actually spend time with makes such a difference. Annette and I both know Zuhura, a good friend of ours, who is the Chief Executive Officer of New Revenue Solutions Africa. And she did a noteworthy generational achievement through her role as chair of Club 30%, which looks at ensuring that 30% is the minimum number of women at boards. She was able to sign off the Nairobi Stock Exchange leaders to ensure that their boards have a minimum of 30%. She's going to be one of our key speakers on Saturday. Catherine Igathe is another key leader. I remember when I launched my book, she has bought 50 copies for her friends and mentees and her leadership team. I mean, how many people do those kind of things? So I want to encourage you in terms of actually growing. If you surround yourself with people who can actually help you see how to grow, this is the network. Because in this network, we believe that you rise as you lift. We'll be sitting at the table impactfully and then making space for others. And if you'd like to join us, I welcome you to do so. Register on our website. The fee is 5,000 shillings. And to be a member, you pay 2,000 every month. And that way it accumulates. So as members, that's why they're coming in free, because they've paid over a period of time. But this is one of the ways in which we engage with each other to ensure that we can actually rise each other as we lift. And I welcome you all to connect with me in any of the 5 ways that I have shown you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amazing. We will be able to share those details. Number one, the details on the breakfast. Ladies, we have an opportunity to glam up and go and mingle with other ladies in other sectors. And believe me, I've attended a number of Patricia's sessions. They are not only absolutely plus. the impact and the networks are really rich and powerful. We'll also be able to share information on how to get your book Rise, which, as I'd mentioned earlier, I read in just I think I sniffed it in 2 days, literally page by page. And what I love about the book is that it gives you an opportunity to reflect as an individual, and you're able to write down points about yourself. So you're not just reading a book chapter after chapter. Is I'm going back and I'm asking myself, as Annette, what is self-care to me? Because that was one of the most important topics. What is self-care? How do I take care of myself? And nowadays, I do it unapologetically. I just announced to my team that I'm going on March. In March, I'm going on Mombasa. And I know people go in December, but I'm going. And I need to just rest so that I have enough energy for the next quarter. So thank you so much, Daktari. I know you have many mentorship sessions through the membership, and we'll be able to share that information. We are preparing for the next session. And guys, I have an amazing panel. Right from the chairman of the Protective Security Industry Association to the chairman of PROSAK, and also a member of a key board member at IPOA, all the way to someone talking about sustainability. But before I do that, I just want to introduce my co-moderators in this room. We are packed with 4 people, and I actually have one very exciting one that I'd love to start with, who is Sienna. So Sienna Dukowski is the Director of Community and Social Affairs at Lady Askari. And one of our corporate members, and you've just had a nice voice from a little lady called Topaz, who features in all our WISE meetings whenever we are organized like this. So probably put up your camera and say hello to everyone, both Sienna and little Topaz. And then I also have with me Joy Mwangi. Joy Mwangi is a seasoned political scientist and a teacher. This is Mwalimu Joy, and she's a lecturer in political thought at Jesuit Worldwide in Karen. She's a wife and a mother to 3. So this will be our moderators for today's event. Karibuni sana.
All right, thank you so much. I would like to welcome Cosmas Mutava. He holds a executive master's business degree and is currently the president of the Kenya Private Safety and Security Federation, as well as a board member of the Federation of Kenya Employers, and the chairman of the Protective Security Industry Association. He's had a very distinguished career in the security industry, and he's going to give us a lot of insight on, what the role of women in the industry and how the industry is going so currently.
All right, thank you, Sienna. I would like to introduce our second panelist, who is Mr. Enock Almasi Makanga. Yes. A lot of you in the security industry are familiar with these names. He is a very distinguished personality in the security sector. He is the current national chairman for the Protective Safety Association of Kenya. He is the founder and group managing director of Victory Protective Security Services Africa Group. He's the founder and director of Impact Chefs and Hospitality Academy Limited. He is also he's a seasoned security expert and a partner of WISE, of Women in Security Excellence, WISE ourselves. We are really looking forward to having the input from you, Mr. Makanga. And he has a passion for personal safety, personal security. He has also had engagements in the international and regional security space. He's an international security speaker, passionate about matters of personal security, counterterrorism, security, and risk management. He's also a bomb technician and a crime scene specialist. We are really looking forward to your input, Mr. Makanga. Karibu.
And then finally, we're joined by Miss Rosemary Wahome, who is the founder and CEO of Beyond Profit Kenya Limited. Rosemary passionately pursues CSR and sustainability with the aim of changing the focus from charity and philanthropy to sustainability and inclusive business practices. Her experience with sustainable development goals is focused on creating awareness and excitement around strategy and organize 3 SDG quiz nights and diversity inclusion quizzes. She has assisted 9 organizations to identify their relevant SDGs and establish impact measurement tools against the same. She hopes to use these platforms to push the discussion beyond the UN meetings to our local boardrooms, office spaces, and homes. She holds an MBA in Global Business Sustainability and Social Entrepreneurship from a university in Italy, which I will butcher. And she is joyfully married and a mother to a bubbly, confident young lady and a bright, cheeky young man. Welcome.
We seem to be losing you, Sienna, but maybe I can take up that.
All right, having had the presentation from Dr. Patricia with the 2 panelists in our audience who are security experts, I think the question that lingers in our minds right now is what would be the role of women in this particular space, the security space? And maybe Mr. Mutava, you would like to guide us?
Yes, thank you very much, Joy, and thank you, everyone. May I take this opportunity to, first of all, say that we want to celebrate with all the women in this group and all the other women we are associated with, our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, in celebrating this year's International Women's Day. Having said that, let me say that I will not do much of my introduction as my colleague has just done that, but in brief, let me say that I am the chairman of Protective Security Industry Association, an association which was formed in the year 2004. Up to today, we have been advocating for the security issues as we want to become, and we are, the voice of security providers in Kenya. What role can women play in this security sector? There are so many ways of doing this. I just want to go straight to the point and say that we need our ladies and our women to offer leadership. We have just been told by our Dr. Patricia that leadership is the key. And what is a leader supposed to be doing? A leader is a person who knows the way, who shows the way, and goes the way. If you have that, then you are going to be a very good leader, and you can now propel all the other people to go to places. Women in security need to be helping institutions to be responsive to the needs of women. If we do that, then we'll be showing the way to do so much in our security space. Remember, we are supposed to be women, to be having women in disarmament, demobilization, peacekeeping, women, peace building, post-conflict, and all other issues concerning security. Reconstruction and economic development is part of the work that women can do in security. Security reforms and governance is a very big issue. And this one can only be done when somebody takes up the issue of security seriously. Decision-making is not an easy thing. And for you to make that decision, you need to be on the table. How can you do that? You have to be where the decision is being made, where the decisions are being taken, and the direction they are supposed to be taken. You need to have the knowledge, the tools, connections, and the strength for you to be able to come up with a new and a good governance, and also influence policies. Women can communicate very well and drive a point home. You know, sometimes when I go to churches, when I go to weddings, I hear the pastors and these other people saying, you know, a woman can speak 1,000 words in a minute. And I look at that and say, yes, I think that is very good. As Patricia, Dr. Patricia has just mentioned, remember, we have the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We can change that 1,000 words in a minute to be an opportunity. Ladies can do that. If you are told that in a church, although the pastors say the word woman means a lot, and women can speak 1,000 words in a minute. So be careful when you are talking to a lady. Yes, that is correct. But again, turn it on the other side. Let it not be a danger. Let it be an opportunity. Use that opportunity to campaign your work in the government and in other institutions. Supporting women can also be a very good way of campaigning. Police women, maintaining of law and order. That's another way of saying we have so many as avenues that ladies and women in security can do. I'm sure the ladies in WISE, that is women in security excellence, are there and they know some of these things. But what we are saying is you need to identify your strategies and activities to support women working in security sector. Women understand the psychology of life well. That means from birth to death. Actually, when there is death, you can see so many women crying because they understand the issue of life very well. And because of that, then this is something that we need to tap. They know from birth, from conception, they know life very well. And because of that, the women in security can now tap in that. Women can also be very crucial when it comes to media houses. They can campaign and they represent the women in security. Women can make technology very well to succeed. Actually, I'm told the ants have got 5 fingers. Each ant has got 5 fingers. And the way they move in a different way. Ladies' fingers are faster than those ones of men. When it comes to even typing on your laptop, they can type very fast. That means women in security, even typing some words. I was watching when Dr. Patricia was making her points, and then she was asking some questions. The number of women who were answering in the chat were more than men. That is to say, women have got the ability, using their body, they can use their body very well. Let me say that they just need to have a plan of action. And then you'll see so many women in security moving in the right direction. Let the women take courage in whatever they are doing. You need to have courage. We have just been told about fear. What is fear? I knew about the fear that doctor mentioned, but now today I've learned another word of another saying face everything. What did I say? Face everything and rise. If that is face everything and rise, then we can now go into that. Having said that, I want to say, I'll just give a chance for the others to maybe mention what other women in security can do. I know we have been told about multitasking, and that is something we have been told it might not be good. We need to do also that, but with a lot of caution. What is this we are doing in multitasking? Women are very good in multitasking, but is it in helping in the security sector? Yes, we can now look at that. Having said that, I want to say thank you very much. Let me wait for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insight on that. The next question is for Enock, and that is, what do you think the industry should do to further support women in the security industry?
Thank you. My name is Enock Makanga. As you've been advised, first of all, I want to congratulate all the ladies that are celebrating this day. And I want to thank WISE for giving me an opportunity to be able to talk to the ladies today. I want to thank Dr. Patricia. I think Dr. Patricia, a job well done. Very few people are able to articulate the issues that you've raised. As far as ladies are concerned, people try to keep these things to themselves. One person that I've tried my level best to make sure that wherever I go or wherever I get in a position, I try to bring in ladies. We just last week we had a chance to nominate some ladies in the National Chamber of Commerce, and we were able to bring in one strong lady from HR. And I think the board has seen how strong ladies are. So having said that, I think from today's discussion, I've been able to see a good number of things, but I want just to highlight on some things that actually I've also been able to learn from Patricia. And I think ladies will concur with me that the devil in the house has been the issue of time management, the issue of time wasters, the issue of career progression, and the issue of correct network, risk taking, and again lifting others and saying thank you. To me, that's what I was able to take from that presentation, that this also applies to men, because if you don't plan yourself, you'll have a very big problem, and you end up doing nothing at the end of the month. Ladies can play a very critical role, but the problem I've had with ladies, wherever we've met in forums, they've complained about roughly around 6 things. When you ask them, yeah, you're working, why can't you get into business? Most of them have normally said that, I have no capital, I can't start a training company, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't start as, you have the knowledge, but you cannot be able to think about. So I think the best thing we need to do to help ladies to be able to get into this area is the issue of helping them to navigate on getting capital. Capital has been one of the biggest challenge for ladies. Whenever they want to get into, for example, business, most of them will actually talk about capital. And then with the issue of management skills, business management skills, I think we need to assist ladies to be able to attend short courses. And this one is a role that I want to talk to WISE, ask WISE that this is your responsibility as an association to make sure that you empower ladies through Zoom trainings, through having as many trainings as possible, to be able to help the ladies you have to think outside the box and to be able to move on, because most ladies have been complaining about they have no business management skills. And then the issue of getting biasness or societal prejudice, I think is coming down slowly by slowly. There are men who cannot, they can't allow a lady to lead them. But what I can say is that the way Dr. Patricia has said, fight on, fight on. When you get somewhere, can you make sure that you are recognized? Can you make sure that you are seen, and bring out something that will make a change and people will be able to recognize you? The other issue is the issue of balancing work-life and, of course, working. I think that one Patricia has brought it very, very, very well. It's a question of you yourself planning and seeing what time you need to get to work, what time you need to do what, and anytime you get an issue, you have to make sure that you don't take it negatively, you take it positively, and you use it in a way that will make a change in your life. And then the issue of networking, I think wise, you need to make sure you also go outside the box. You actually help ladies who are down there from police. I know I'm trying to run some programs for police through NAPOC and IPA. But my advice to wise is that please, there are people who are in police, who are in prisons, who are in, and they need to understand what happens in the private sector, because whenever somebody leaves the forces or the working and now comes to work, somebody must have what you call hands-on skills to understand what happens in the private sector, so that he or she has a soft landing. And this is a problem that I think WISE can be able to work on that. I want to thank you for identifying Patricia to be a speaker today. I think you can, Dr. Patricia, you can be able to get other speakers to come on board and be able to empower ladies in different ways. And now, because Zoom has become a very effective way of communicating, I think that can be able to assist in a way or so. Lastly, but not least, the enemy in the house, enemies of each other. This has been talking when we go to meetings where we are talking about ladies. The issue has been you hate each other, you cannot be able to carry each other. And I think Dr. Patricia has talked it. Are you able to be a ladder where your colleagues can be able to climb on you to go up, or you are the person who gets up there and you remove the ladder and you say, I've reached, that's it. I think very few ladies I've met that can be able to bring that talent of saying, let me put the ladder and others can be able to come up. I think those are the 6 areas that I think ladies should be able to look on, work on, and we shall be able to assist you. We shall make sure that we create as many forums as possible where ladies can be able to benefit, and we can change the voice of a lady in the society today. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Makanga, for that invaluable input. Now I'd like to go to Rosemary. Being in that, in the NGO sector, I know the conversation is about the Sustainable Development Goals. Where do you see security tie in with the achievement of the same, especially here in Kenya? Over to you, Rosemary.
Thank you so much, Joy, and good morning, everyone. And this has been quite an honor to be part of this session and to listen to Dr. Patricia and her little pearls of wisdom and nuggets of challenge that we need to take up as women and indeed as men as well. I'll start off by giving a brief of what the Sustainable Development Goals are, and then I'll connect it with where security fits into it. So the Sustainable Development Goals are 17 goals that have brought the world together to address the challenges that we are facing as humanity. So if you're given a chance to resolve the problems that we are facing, I'm sure the list will cover climate change, it will look at corruption, it will look at our growing population, and all these different challenges that are facing us, yeah? So these goals try to address these challenges. So we look at planet and how we can live in better harmony with nature. We look at peace and being able to foster harmony in our societies. We look at our people and we address the issues that we face every day. We look at poverty, we look at hunger, we look at health, education, gender equality, and any other inequalities. We also look at prosperity from an economic perspective, where we are looking at not just ensuring that people have money and that they're able to use this money, but they have access to certain services as well. So you're able to access basic needs, you're able to access emergency health care, you're able to feed yourself, you're able to access insurance and other services. So these goals cut across all the problems that we face, and they try to help us to achieve them by 2030, so that we are all in the same space, we are all addressing these issues together, and we are in partnership. So when we talk about security, it is anchored on the pillar of peace. And I'd like to say that peace is not just the absence of war or the absence of violence, it is also the presence of justice and having institutions that are able to provide justice to all of us. And when we look at the goals, there's a specific goal that ties to peace. And this is the 16th goal, which looks at peace, justice, and strong institutions. And it does not stop at looking at the absence of violence. It also looks at reducing the number of homicides that are within our countries. It looks at bribery and corruption and how the rule of law is being enforced. It looks at providing identity to people so that you're able to register children as they're born, and thus they're able to access the services that I've mentioned, so that when you are a civilian, when you are a citizen of a country, you're able to vote, you're able to attend school, you're able to access healthcare, access basic needs, and you're identified by the government. So when we look at peace, it forms a very key part of how these different aspects of society are addressed and all these challenges, because then we cannot have a society that is living in harmony with nature, yet we are struggling with peace, because at the end of the day, people will be unhappy where they are not able to access certain services, they're not able to access certain resources. Yeah, and that's where peace comes in as a very major part of how we address sustainable development and how we are able to build a better future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rosemary. Now I would like to go back to Mr. Mutava and ask you, as a security practitioner who has been in the industry for that long, and as a father, as a man, what do you think are some of the challenges our ladies are facing in this field?
Thank you, Joy, for that question, and thank you, members. Now, what I can say is that there are so many challenges that women face in security. One of them is discrimination. You'll note that when it comes to violence in the family, there is a lot of battering, sexual abuse, harassment, and so many other ways of discrimination. Ladies need to understand the issue of discrimination. There is a lot of strain as far as pregnancy is concerned. When somebody is pregnant and is working in security, that causes for a resolution because it's a challenge. How does somebody go for 9 months when you are pregnant and you are in security? Vulnerability, because some of these women in security are the breadwinners of the family, and they are vulnerable to so many other issues, including lack of leadership in the family and the lack of support in that family. So that's a very big challenge. Unfriendly working environment is another challenge, because you find that there are these environments where women are having very many problems in it. Criminal activities in general, in case of street robbery, carjacking, and so many other issues, ladies face it in a very big way. There is a lot of gun-related robberies and conflict. And again, when there are ladies in security, they have a very big problem in this. When you go to other areas like racism, it's a form of discrimination where there is discrimination against because of the race, ethnicity, orientation, or even age. They are discriminated because of that. And because of, we need now to talk about this as a challenge so as for us to come up with a solution. Women in security, and more so when they are directors, they are not regarded as directors, just like in the other sectors. For example, in the bank, you see women in security being downgraded, not like the other sectors. And that one calls for a solution. I think for a short while, I can just stop there. Thank you.
Hi, this next question. Sorry about that. This next question is for Enock. As we're approaching the 2022 elections, there's an anticipation of violence, which of course, women and children are at particular risk. What are you doing to help mitigate this, given that mostly men are the predator or the perpetrators of violence and things like that?
Yes, I think you will agree with me that whenever we head to elections, the people that normally suffer greatly are normally ladies. It happens.
Hello?
I think we are losing him, but I can jump in.
That would be great. Go on.
Yeah, thank you. I think we are losing Mr. Makanga, but for a while, maybe I can also go on with this and say that there are other challenges that we are facing as a country that women in security can also be looked and maybe we look for a solution. One of them is in women in security when it comes to tendering of jobs and what have you, they are discriminated. And that's why we are coming with a law to come out of that. The other issues is the issue of minimum wage. You see, like what Dr. Patricia talked about. When it comes to payment, you see people in security, women in security are paid low, and we need to come up with a law that will bring together the 7 acts so that we can come out of the minimum wage discrimination. Taxation is another very big challenge when it comes to women in security as a part of a challenge. We have other things like election preparedness. We are heading to 2022 where we are going to have election. And we need to think about women in security. How prepared are they? As we also think about private security preparedness for the election, which is just at the corner. Having said that, we need to engage the women, as I said in the beginning. Let's have teamwork to come out of that. I can see Mr. Makanga has come on board, then maybe we can continue from there. Thank you.
Yeah. So a follow-up question to that would be, how can we ensure that women in security are really properly covered in the private security regulation authority? I know you just mentioned that, you know, the laws are getting put in place for equal pay and things of that nature, but are there further ways in which women can be really better represented and the needs and skills gap further pushed forward so that we can have the greater equality?
Yes, I can answer that one and say that when we talk about security, we basically talk about protection, deterrence, observation, and recording. These are the 4 elements of security. And women can now be of great help. For example, when they come and join hands, work as a team, have inclusivity. This way, they are going to be strong in ability and they have unity of purpose. That is to say that they need to be in the policy making teams. Women in security need to be in the policy making teams. You know, women feel more comfortable when they are being talked by other women, for example, and when there is a case of sexual abuse, we need to have more women in police, more people in these institutions, so that when there are these mode of and sort of abuses, the women are talked by other women in the police force. Searching of women in these institutions is better off and comfortable when it's done by women. Yes, that is to say that we have to get the right people in the right places. Women in security need to organize themselves and have more security firms owned by women. As we speak, there are very few women in this. Somebody talked about financing. The other week, I was having a talk with KEPSA, and we talked about a grant for women in security. And you know, today we don't have any grant that has been given by that organization. Although we have the grant, we have the money kept somewhere for women in security, and none of them has been given. What we need to do is to be more active. Let us have more space, more information, such that when a grant like that one comes up, it is there for grabs by the women in security, such that we will not be having that money or the grant being taken back because women have not come out to ask for their grants and the loans. Again, for the ones who qualify to be given the loans, they also need to repay so that they can be given a good example, show a good example for the others to show. I want to say that they need to be supported by civil society. And I'm glad I can see Caleb Wanga here as one of civil society of Salama Forum. Women in security need to be supported such that when the government comes up with laws, there is issue of lobbying and advocacy for the women in security. Taking risk in managing main sector dominated security sector is also something that women need to think about. I am not afraid to say that I am a man, but I'm saying let more women come out and have that space. We need also to absorb the outcome of crime statistics. The other day we are being told that the statistics of crime has gone up in our country. And some of the things require people to take on the outcome, like carjackings and mugging, thefts. We need to take up that. We need more people in security who can now come out and say, let us have this as a solution. So risk taking and absorbing that. Take advantage of the situation. Like yesterday we are talking about COVID-19 vaccination. How many women have we seen coming out to say, I want to be vaccinated? Take that chance and say the first person to be vaccinated was a lady in security. We had somebody in Machakos, I think the CS in Machakos, CS Health in Machakos, coming out saying that I have been vaccinated for COVID-19. Let us have more people showing, you know, the direction. As I said, leadership is about knowing the way, showing the way, and going the way. If you do that, then other people will follow. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insight. Enock, we want to get back to you. And also if you could give us some insight on how we ensure that women are covered in the private security regulation or covered through the Private Security Regulations Authority.
Unmute, Makanga. Unmute.
Sorry, I just went off miraculously, but I think I'm back and people can now hear me. I want to say, first of all, there are things that there's a question that was asked was how do we help women to be able to shine in the private sector? Before I come to your question, and then I'll talk about, I've already mentioned about the issue of financing, the issue of organizing very many women forums, and I've challenged twice that there comes a time when you need to strategize and come up with ways you can help fellow ladies in the industry. For example, you asked me about the 2022 elections. People who normally have problems during elections mostly are ladies and children. Why can't we come up with a training that will be able to help even ladies be able to know how to be able to navigate politics? Because I know when politics comes, ladies are really brutalized. You cannot be able to come in the tough arena where we've got men. And there's a high time that as wives, we come up with ways where we can be able to hold seminars for political ladies. People are in the field and take them through security tips on how to be able to avoid the nitty-gritties, things like how to put on when you're going to a political rally, to engage lady askari as a company to be able to give you security, the things like what to not eat, how to greet people, how to deal with people. These are serious issues that ladies who are in politics are facing. They just get into politics without understanding the challenges that are there in politics and how to be able to navigate them. I'm very much available. Should I be asked to be able to run a workshop on ladies security in politics, I'll be very, 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 very much willing to assist WISE to make sure that we bring ladies to the bar. Ladies can be able to understand how the game runs and the things they need to avoid to be able to be victims of crime. Involving ladies in the authority, this one has been a very big cry. I'm one of the people who complained when I saw the list of the board for private security regulatory authority. There was no lady that had been put in on the board. And I'll continue struggling. I'll continue telling those who are concerned that there comes a time when we constitute a board like the Private Security Regulatory Authority. Let's have one lady to be able to represent ladies or to be able to actually talk about ladies' issues on that board. And as an association, PROSAK, we shall make sure that we front this. When we were asked to give a list of the names of the people who would be considered, I think I gave 2 names of ladies simply because I want to actually push the agenda of ladies in any forum. Lastly, I think WISE, you have a lot of things on your plate. You need to make sure that you go out and come up with a strategy on how you'd be able to meet all these challenges, all these things that we are talking about. They look big, but I think as a ladies' arm that is being supported by PROSAK, we are very ready to support you. We are ready to make sure that we help you to be able to navigate and be able to help the ladies who are still outside. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Enock. Thank you. Thank you so much. As WISE, we really look forward to partnering with you and are very excited to hear that you have such programs in place. And now I'd like to throw it back to Rosemary. And I would like you to enlighten us regarding the diversity and inclusion quizzes that are normally conducted. How do they happen? What are they about? And how often should they be conducted? And maybe what is their importance within the security sector?
Okay. Thank you, Joy. Let me start by differentiating diversity and inclusion. And I'd like to say that diversity is a starting point. Yeah, it's where you start out and where you become aware of the qualities that make us different as men and women. Yeah, so it cuts across, be it on age, be it on race, be it tribal, be it religion, all these different things that make us different. So at a point of diversity, it's an awareness and knowing that we are different. Then you move to inclusion, where you become very structural and very intentional on how your organization is addressing diversity. So you look at the policies that you need to have in place. You look at some of the practices that you need to address within your organization. But the final point of this is belonging, where we say that those who are different, those who are probably from a minority setting, who are not well represented in the organization, feel that they belong. And at this point, you look at the culture of the organization, where you're not just ticking boxes and saying that we have hired 30% of our managers as women, that you are saying that these women are part of us, that they are included in the conversations that we are having, and that they feel that they are part of the organization. So for our starting point, we've launched the diversity and inclusion quizzes, where we want to make people more aware of what this means, and also just to gauge the level of interest in our different organizations, so that we have corporates that will report on some of these aspects of their business. Specifically, you can look at Safaricom, you can look at KCB, and you'll see that they will mention the number of women in leadership. They will look at how many of these women have been promoted. They will look at how many of them have left the organization. What programs do they have in place to empower women? But it all comes from a point of understanding that this is a journey, and it starts out with that awareness and knowing that we are different, and being able to share this information with the public and share it with the different stakeholders. Yeah. So the quiz gives the participants a chance to understand what diversity is, what inclusion is, and also to see examples that are very local and are very dear to us, and have a starting point of what to emulate, what practices to pick up, and what to take back home.
Thank you so much for highlighting what diversity is and the difference between diversity and inclusion, because most often these two issues are mixed up, and you can end up being diverse, but you're not truly inclusive. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome Michelle Quinn, if she's on board. I don't know, Michelle, if you can be able to hear me, to say hello. Michelle Quinn is a great friend of Women in Safety Excellence. And we have plans of being able to see how we are able to do women, peace and security programs, and to actually ensure that we achieve the 30% diversity plan. Michelle, if you're on board, we'd love to see you, say hello. And if you're not, I'll take this opportunity to give a great vote of thanks for everybody for the participation. Thank you so much, Dr. Patricia, who had to leave for another event. And she was very candid in her description of why we need to dare to challenge. And we were challenged both as women and as men, that we have a personal ability in making sure that we leave a difference in this world. And we also have a difference when it comes to impacting the industry and even the country. But it starts with yourself. I want to thank all the participants. I want to thank again, our panelists, Mr. Enock Makanga, who has already given us the commitment to work together with us, as well as also challenged WISE to take up its position in the industry, to discuss women issues very vocally, and again highlighted the opportunities we have, even with the regulatory authority, in being able to see our dream of 30% women representation come true. Mr. Mutava, thank you for highlighting not only the challenges, but also the opportunities and the role that a woman plays in security. And I know that even starting from the Protective Security Industry Association to PROSAK, already your board is diverse. But I want to pose the question, are our members also practicing this diversity? And are we able to work together to make sure that, number one, we start with what Rosemary has mentioned, which is awareness. Create that awareness, create platforms, training opportunities, and have numbers that a member of PROSAK should be able to have. If you are a security manager, within your team, or even your assistant can be a lady. Within your guard force, you can be able to ask the contracted or outsourced security company to have that 30%. So I really want to thank our panelists from the private security industry, Mr. Enock Makanga, a man we really respect, because he's not only vocal, but he's consistent and has been able to hold this industry together with Mr. Mutava, my own chairman at the Protective Security Industry Association, who's also very vocal when it comes to matters of private security, regulations, and the need to constantly improve. I want to thank all our partners, PSIA, PROSAK, Beyond Profit, and particularly because has mentioned that we are soon going to have the diversity and inclusion quiz as a partnership. I want to thank KEPSOC, and I'll give an opportunity to Chris Otieno at the end to say hello. And I was very, very impressed to see that as KEPSOC, the chat box, that they already have programs in line for women. And as WISE, we love to partner with you when it comes to that. These are very good career development opportunities for women in this sector, and we are proud to have you, KEPSOC, as one of our partners. ACSIMP, from the diversity you have in your own board to now the practice that you have, we appreciate you, and we appreciate you as a partner in today's session for Dare to Challenge. Everyone who participated in this session, I may not be able to name each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Chris, if you're a partner KEPSOC, please say hello as we come to a close.
Thank you, Annette Kimitei. Thank you, everyone. Good morning to each and every participant, panelists, and the organizers. I'm really happy to have sat through this session. I'm happy to hear the points that came from the panelists. I'm happy to hear the kind of questions that you guys shot. And it basically tells me that you guys are practically visionary on what you want to achieve with the WISE. So back here at KEPSOC, tuko pamoja, and we are really, really happy to be your partners. May God bless each and every one of you, and stay safe, stay put, and be secure. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. Remember, COVID is real. Let's observe all safety protocols. We are the first line of defense for this nation, even against this virus. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, KEPSOC. Thank you, all our partners. Thank you, all our panelists and the participants. And may you all have a very blessed day. Bye-bye.